All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, today we're going to go over the strength of the case against Richard Allen. It's been 5 years since Abby and Libby's bodies were found brutally murdered off the popular hiking trail in Delphi, Indiana. And then, at least from where I'm sitting, out of nowhere, a month ago, they arrest a man named Richard Allen. He's immediately given $20 million bail. That's a lot. And then law enforcement involved hold a press conference where the guy gets up and goes, "Today is the day, people." And then he doesn't say anything else. It's a "I'd like to congratulate everybody standing behind me" type of press conference. And then a judge is appointed to the case. Well, the judge comes out immediately and goes, "We're not going to divulge the probable cause that led to the arrest of Richard Allen because the public has a, quote, toxic bloodlust for information." And one, it doesn't take too many brains, a little bit of strategizing to be able to tell the public who's been glued to this case for 5 years what the probable cause that finally led to the arrest of this man. Just a little bit of strategy. And two, it's not a toxic bloodlust for information. It's just normal. Human beings are pack animals, and when two young girls are brutally murdered, everyone's thinking, was this just a homeless drifter that was coming through town, now is long gone? Is this someone that lives here? It can change a whole mood and ruin a small community, because all of a sudden it goes from a town where you can go on a walk and enjoy the sunshine to a, "No way you guys are going on a walk by yourself. No, you can't go on a bike ride. There's just no way." And it can change an entire mindset of a small community for generations. And it's only normal. What would the judge rather have it be, where they finally arrest this guy and they go, we think we finally got the guy that murdered those two young girls. Would it be better if the public said, "So, I don't care"? Who cares? I know I don't. So that really rubbed me the wrong way. And the funny thing about it is, then a week or two later, they did release all the probable cause. And the big forensic news that no one knew before has nothing to do with gory details. It's a unspent .40 caliber bullet that they are saying they can forensically and have forensically proven was recycled through Richard Allen's gun that they seized during a search warrant in late October. So I don't know what that judge was going on about with the toxic bloodlust for information. But then that judge recused himself, said he was scared or something. And I think that was a good move. Doesn't sound like that guy had what it takes to handle a case of this magnitude. So that judge is out. So we got a new judge. Then there's a hearing where they said, this is before they released the probable cause, which we're going to talk about. Then there's a hearing where they said, the reason we're not divulging anything yet is because we think there's possibly someone else involved, which makes way more sense than the toxic bloodlust reason. It's like, okay, well, you want to keep everything close to your chest. They had the whole time. A lot of details have come out since then, but they had kept the details of the crime scene and any leads they had really close to their chest. So I think if they did find someone they were interested in, they could use that against them. Like if this person knows anything that hasn't been divulged to the public, then they're involved. So they come out and say someone else might be involved, and that's why we're not giving out the information. It's like, okay, well, that makes more sense. Anybody that's followed it, I think when they heard that, someone else possibly involved, it's hard not to think of, what's his name? His name's Keegan. Anyway, a guy named Keegan years ago, or I know he did 10 months ago, he did an interview from his jail cell. He's doing time for child pornography related charges. And the reason that it's hard when they said there might be someone else involved not to think this Keegan, the child porn guy, is because he is hideously ugly guy, and he made a Facebook profile of a good-looking, ripped dude, and he would use that to talk to women and girls, and he had messaged with one of, I think it was Liberty the night before, and I've even heard that that is the last person, other than family and the relative that dropped them off at the hiking trail, the last person, one of the last persons she talked to. So obviously he's going to be heavily investigated. But in the interview he did 10 months ago from jail, he said, I'm just not. I did message probably with her. I used this Facebook account to message with people, but I didn't have anything to do with that. I've cooperated. I gave hair and DNA and anything they wanted, which now that we know that the probable cause has come out, I don't think they have DNA to match. So the theory that I think a lot of people, myself included, if there is someone else involved, maybe it's the Keegan guy, talked to him, realized they were going on the hike, the bridge that day, and then maybe communicated with Richard Allen. I haven't seen anything with messages between those two or any links between the child porn guy and the Richard Allen who they arrested, but maybe that'll come out. But then, so they did the court hearing where they said, we're not going to divulge anything because there may be someone else involved and we need to keep our details close to the chest. It's like, okay, that makes more sense. But then they released it. It's an 8-page document of all of the probable cause of the packet of how we ended up arresting Richard Allen. And nowhere does it mention that he was messaged by the Keegan guy anywhere in it. And so again, I guess we'll just wait and see on that one. So let's go all the way back though, the 5 years, and Abby and Libby are walking down the bridge, and Liberty, I'm pretty sure it was her, took bravely and probably is going to lead to the justice of the man that killed them. But she took the quintessential video of, it's called the bridge guy video, of the guy walking towards them. You see his clothes, you see the shape of the man, you see the size of the man, and you get the little chunk of the voice of the guys down the hill. Absolutely bone-chilling. Something that's come out in the 8-page probable cause that they released that no one knew until now is also one of the girls referenced he's got a gun. They hadn't said that this whole 5-year period. So apparently you hear one of the girls in that same recording say he's got a gun, which is a huge piece of information because the main forensic evidence that they have is a .40 caliber bullet that was found in between the girls' bodies that they're claiming was it's a, what do they call it? It's an unspent round, and they're claiming they have forensic proof. We'll see. I don't know much about how good that is, but they can say they have forensically proved that it was recycled through Richard Allen's gun that they seized during a late October search warrant. And so if that's the case, if that holds up, that's pretty good. And then other than that, it's all circumstantial evidence, which is still evidence. The local Delphi law expert has gone on and says she doesn't think the case is too strong. It's all circumstantial evidence, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You hear it all the time. This is the CSI era. People want bodily fluids matched. They want the DNA. And with this one, sadly, it doesn't sound like they have it. But anyway, so going back to the big 8-page probable cause. So one thing we didn't know until that was one of the girls referenced gun. So that puts a gun, evidence of a gun in that bridge guy's that's walking down the bridge in his possession, because during interviews of Richard Allen, he pretty much has to say that he was there that day. He was seen by a whole bunch of people. His car was seen driving in, driving out. So he has to say, yeah, I was hiking that day, but a lot of people were hiking that day. It's not illegal to go hiking on the hiking trail, and so I'm sorry that this happened, but I'm just not the guy. But with that little, hey, he's got a gun, that is evidence that the bridge guy walking down had a gun. So talking about that short little video, it's hard for me to believe that especially Richard Allen's wife didn't recognize the clothes. Think about your family and friends. You recognize the jeans, the coat, the shape, everything. That video was shown to everybody in town 10 million times. Pictures of it are posted on every business. Anywhere you went in Delphi, it was up. I even think Richard Allen was the pharmacy tech at the CVS. I even think there was one where he worked. So imagine if it is him walking through the sliding glass doors at CVS going to work in the pharmacy, and he's walking by himself day after day. And so immediately we learned from the 8 pages of probable cause that came out of why they arrested him. Law enforcement interviewed pretty much anyone that they could find that was hiking on the trails that day. And I consider it pretty good circumstantial evidence that there was only one person seen in that time period on the trails that day that was even remotely close to the guy in the bridge, the clothes, the age, being a male. There was a lot of females hiking that day, and it's just a blank spot in the 8-page document. It's, blank spot said that, but there's a lot of witnesses saying we were hiking that day and we saw one guy, the whole hike, we hiked the whole thing, we saw one guy and he was wearing jeans, and they all say, it's all a little bit different, but it's enough of the same where myself and I think a jury is going to go, yeah, it's too much of a coincidence. They all say he's wearing jeans and some sort of a blue coat. One person even says a duck canvas coat, and it goes on later to, they think it's a blue Carhartt coat, which Carhartt, that's their famous material, is the duck canvas. So even for a witness that was like, yeah, we saw one kind of sketchy dude that was looking down and hiding his face, and another one said, hey, hi, how are you? The way people do on hikes. How you doing? We're hiking. Isn't that cool? And didn't say anything back. And the fact that pretty much everybody hiking during that time period said, yeah, there was one guy that had jeans on and a blue coat and was hiding his face on a nice day, and maybe had even a hood up and was acting a little bit funny and was just kind of walking around. And they have it, so all right, everybody that was on the trail at the time leading up to when it happened, and then everybody that was hiking after that point was like, no, we didn't see anybody like that. 2, Richard Allen's car was a big chunk of the probable cause. Many people reported seeing a car bizarrely parked at a building. It was actually ironically the Child Protective Services building, which is right there, I guess, either at the start or the end of the popular hiking trail. But there's a place that everybody parks that goes hiking, and then there's this one car that's backed in on this at the Child Protective Services building. It was noticeable, like, that's a little bit weird, and no one nailed the exact make and model from memory, but everybody's memory was similar to the make and model of Richard Allen's car at the time. And then they bring in Richard Allen right when it happened, which it's tough to, like, I actually saw family members for one of the victims speak in 2019, and law enforcement that are investigating it in 2019 down in New Orleans. And just, it's heartbreaking. And to know that they interviewed Richard Allen right after it happened, and he couldn't deny, because there's a bunch of people that saw him. I'm pretty sure they have his car on camera at some point headed that direction. A bunch of people described similar what his car looked like, bizarrely parked in that building, where it's like, why would you park there? So they bring Richard Allen in way back 5 years ago and question him, and he goes, I was there, which his defense team is saying, see how open he was? He didn't say he wasn't there, but in my opinion, especially if he is the guy, I think he's forced. I think he probably wants to say, no, I wasn't there, but he has to. He knows enough people saw him. He knows maybe electronic records from his phone. Who knows? I think enough people can put him there that he was forced to be like, yeah, I was there hiking, and I wasn't the one that did it. I was hiking. He said he was looking at a stock ticker on his phone. Maybe that's why he doesn't remember seeing anyone else, which is also a little bit suspicious. Everybody else on the hiking trail during that time remembers a lot, and it doesn't seem to be this hard, and talking to Richard Allen, it was a lot of, I don't know, I don't remember that, and I don't remember what the other people on the trail looked like, and his excuse was, I was paying attention to a stock ticker on my phone. So they have a pretty good, in my opinion, timeline of people that were on the trail leading up to when the murders take place. And they got a pretty good idea because of the quintessential video that Liberty took. They have the timestamp of that video where him going, guys, down the hill, and the girl goes, he's got a gun. And so after the next big kind of witness that sends a feeling, at least through me, being like, all right, that's too much of a coincidence, is a short time after that video, someone's driving and sees Richard Allen, or someone that fits Richard Allen's description. We don't know it's him, but someone that fits the clothes, the size, the shape of the man, walking down the side of the road covered in mud and blood. So we'll see if that witness comes off credible or what, but walking down the road that you would go to the car that's awkwardly parked at the Child Protective Services building. And in Richard Allen's interview right after it happened, they talked to him 5 years ago, he called it I parked at the old farm building, and they're going, there's no such thing as the old farm building, so it's not like he said, yeah, I always park at the Child Protective Services building, no, just a habit, that's where I park. He was kind of tried to muddle that part of the story up, and the way that they said he's parked seems like maybe he's hiding from the cameras in the area. And so they talked to him, they talked to all these witnesses that basically describe him. Anyone that's following this case, it's hard not to go with, how did it take 5 years? Nothing has changed. Like they said earlier, the one main detail of, other than the circumstantial, all the witnesses walking down the side of the road covered in blood and mud and the weirdness and everyone that can put him there and him having to admit that he's there, the one big forensic piece of evidence that they're claiming is the .40 caliber bullet, which they've known about and have had this whole time. And it has come out in the past week where, I don't know where, but it said the reason that he was interviewed and fits the description and fits pretty much everything and the reason he wasn't arrested until now, or was forgot about, or however you want to word it, is because of a clerical error done by law enforcement, where maybe it was like, all right, and then he was pushed aside. And then the FBI has come out and said that is misleading. They didn't say it was completely wrong, though, so we'll see what that means, the clerical error, but then said, that's misleading to call it that. The channel Plunder, which is a blast from the past to the Chris Watts days, went on, just like she did with the Shanann videos on Facebook, went on to Richard Allen's wife's Facebook and pulled any video off that had Richard Allen in it. And I went into all these videos skeptical because this isn't the first guy in this case that they've, all right, this could be the guy, and then it's not. And also, you gotta give Richard Allen, he is innocent until proven guilty, and to be pegged on a crime like this, and it would be horrifying if it wasn't him. You know, that would be totally life-ruining, and probably already has ruined him and his wife's lives. Richard, in a note to the judge, said that his wife had to quit her job or had to move out of their house, and obviously his job is gone, and it's totally life-changing for these people. So we can't just, this is the guy, get him. So I went into the videos. I've seen the bridge guy video 10 million times. I've heard the guys down the hill 10 million times. And so I went into the videos from Richard Allen's wife's Facebook that the channel Plunder put up with a skeptical mindset, thinking, okay, I'm not going to go into this ready to crucify Richard Allen. And I got to say, even going in with the skeptical mindset, there isn't one video or one angle of Richard Allen where all of a sudden it hits me like, this isn't the guy. That's not him. His voice. There's a video where him and his wife are going down a gondola, and you hear his voice for just a second, and voices are pretty unique from person to person, and it sent shivers down my spine. And like, that sounds like the voice. It really does. Not just, I want someone to go down for this. It really does. And the shape of them. The Gary Investigates guy did a pretty good video where he superimposed like a picture of Richard Allen up against the bridge guy, and they're the same shape. And the sketches that came out, if you remember, either the first sketch was an old guy, and then they put out another sketch where it's kind of a younger looking guy. And now there's a bunch where they put Richard Allen's face in between, and he looks like both of them. Richard Allen is kind of an old, young-looking guy, or a young, old-looking guy, depending on his facial hair. And another thing always was the bridge guy kind of was hobbling. Did he have a bad leg? Did he have something down his pants? And I think now it's a little bit awkward probably to walk on the bridge, but there's a video on Richard Allen's wife's Facebook where they go on a 7-hour hike all day long, a tough, real deal hike. So that solves is Richard Allen physically capable of doing that walk? And obviously he had to admit that he was on the hike. And so there's nothing from those Facebook videos that hit me like, nah, I don't know if this is the guy. Like, I was thinking of the Son of Sam, the famous murder case here in New York City, and they arrest the guy, but some of the sketches don't look like him at all. Some of them have curly blonde hair or are much smaller, and then that led to pretty good arguments that there was more than one, and then the guy that they arrested did admit that there was more than one, and that turned into a whole thing. But the sketches and the video and the voice record, there's not one thing that really stood out of like, I don't know. And also, and this is nothing as far as actually getting convicted, but Richard Allen does seem like a creepy guy in some of the videos. At one of them, he's in the car, his wife's shopping, and the wife was like, I'm going to sneak up on him in the car. And as she's approaching the window filming, he's reading something, and then as he's sensing someone is walking up, he slams the folder of whatever he's reading and looks super mad that someone's walking up on him. And I'm thinking, what would I be reading that I would want to slam that quickly if someone's walking up? And But his lawyers, Richard Allen's lawyers, are saying, look, he didn't move away. He still lives right there. That doesn't seem too suspicious. And so they have the bullet. That's the new thing that no one knew about. And at late October, they execute a search warrant. I don't know what led them to finally going, let's do it. Maybe just they said, we got to shoot our shot. If he's not the guy, then it'll come out in court that he's not the guy, but this is the only one that everything is pointing to this guy, Richard Allen. Let's just go for it. I don't know. We'll see. So they execute a search warrant. They find a blue Carhartt duck canvas coat. They find a .40 caliber gun that they bring Richard in for a interrogation, which I'm hoping pops up on YouTube. But they bring him in after the search warrant, after they took his .40 caliber, and then according to the probable cause document, it says they have proven forensically that unspent bullet came from Richard Allen's gun. So they obviously ask Allen, did you loan that gun to anyone? He said no. It's been in your possession since you bought it in 2001. Richard Allen says yes. And they say, okay, Richard, well, you need to explain why this bullet that's the right fit for, not only the right fit, but can be scientifically proven to be, has gone through your gun. How did that end up between these two murdered girls? And apparently he did not have any answer for that and was arrested a short time later. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I just keep going back to, if it is him, and we'll see if it is. I don't think the trial will start anytime soon, but we'll see if it is. I just wonder, being in that small town, there's only 3,000 people in the town, and say you cut that in half because they're female, so 1,500, and then you can cut that into a much smaller pool because a lot of people aren't that shape of Richard Allen. If I'm walking down the bridge, I'm not going to look like short, stocky Richard Allen. And so I'm thinking, wonder if he changed his style, and a lot of the plunder videos from his wife's Facebook, you could tell he's not happy when his wife has the camera out and he's always kind of looking down and avoiding, which again doesn't prove he's guilty, but it's a wild one. And another piece is someone in law enforcement is suing someone else in law enforcement in the small Delphi community because he's saying that he got demoted because years ago he was saying we should get help. And who knows if this is true. This is just what one guy is saying in the lawsuit. He's saying we should get help, or we should get more help by the FBI or whatever it is. And he's saying that irked someone in the local law enforcement, and now that person that got irked has become the sheriff, or has moving up in the ranks and has demoted that guy for what he said years ago. So it seems like there's infighting in law enforcement, and I just keep going back to nothing has changed. They had everything that they had in the documents, all the interviews of the witnesses and that bullet. They've had it the whole time. Why'd they pull the trigger now with Richard Allen? Richard Allen's attorneys, and this is what I would be doing too if I was the defense attorneys, they have to attack the credibility of the forensic evidence on that bullet. I think we'll see if the witnesses are credible, especially the one that said she saw someone that looked exactly like Richard Allen with the clothes walking down the road covered in mud and blood, and she said that it looked like he had just gotten into a fight. If that witness comes off really credible, then that's good circumstantial evidence. But what led to, they had that bullet the whole time to just go, all right, we're going for it. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Pretty wild stuff. I'm going to cut it off there. I'll see you guys soon. Why? Why?